Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your Sunday instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Ray, to talk about all things Rangers. That's Philip Clemont's Table Topping Rangers after today. It's Sunday the 18th of February, it's 9:30pm, and we're absolutely delighted that you can join us here tonight. And before we get into all things Rangers, need to bring a message from our sponsors. That is Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company, and they've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years, and we're absolutely delighted that they're back in our podcast. You can get them over at forestprecisioneng.com, and you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Of course, this is the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans by fans. And as always, all of our content is free. You can get us over on Twitter at Gersnet Online, and the website and the forum as well at gersnet.co.uk. Joined tonight by my wonderful guest, Mr. Alec Anderson, who's, I've got to say, recovered after his earlier party. And I mean, Alec, we never quite get the 6-each draw that I predicted that would take us top of the league, but I'm sure we'll all take the 3-0 as well.
Aye, that's just, it's not as interesting, but it's a bit boringly straightforward, Craig. But aye, tabletop fantastic, mate. Enjoying the view. Just look out the way. Don't look at what's beneath us. Just look out the way and enjoy the glorious view. Absolutely fantastic. A lovely day. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves, but I think we're all entitled to totally enjoy the moment, Craig. So looking forward to a bit of chat, mate.
No, definitely. And I said on Friday when I was doing the preview with John, reverse psychology, getting that fourth goal against Ross County on Wednesday. Let Celtic think they're in control. And look, they dropped points yesterday against a wonderful Killie at Parkhead. Fantastic. Yeah. I'll take the credit for that one. But
damn right.
Look, I mean, as you said, we can't get ahead of ourselves, but we've got every right to be excited. It's the first time that we've been in this position for 18 months, maybe a wee bit long. Well, no, 2 years actually, never mind 18 months. Christ, it has been that long. But, we're coming into mid-February. We're top of the table. The momentum's with us right now, Alec, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. That's it. I think it's really important. We've got to enjoy the moment. We deserve it. We've waited for this. I think all today has confirmed, as if a lot of us might, I don't think many of us will still have needed convincing, but it's confirmed that we're in the right hands. We're in safe hands. We Philip Clement, we're doing as much as we possibly can. And if Celtic are going to come back at us, I would imagine there's going to be a few slips along the way. We're getting into a part of the season where we're going to start playing in Europe again. We're going to have the Scottish Cup coming up as well. It's going to get quite intense. It will test what is starting to look like a really good squad we've got just now. But the strength and depth of that will be tested a lot more stringently in the coming months. So we've got to enjoy it, but we've also got to enjoy it, not just as Rangers supporters, and we deserve it, what we've been through in earlier part of this season, but also just to get enough of a momentum going, just to keep the feel-good feeling. Just to get behind the players. I think the fans have been absolutely fantastic since Clement came in. We've realised he's the real deal. There was a slight bit of tension the other night where we didn't get the fourth goal that we wanted against Ross County. We didn't get that 3 goal when that was quite laughable when you think about where we've come from, but it's also quite understandable when you think about the amount of times that the fans have felt let down over the last few years. But to do it today was absolutely vital. To do it so convincingly was just bloody heartwarming, Craig. I just really enjoyed it. And I think it's important that we enjoy it the right way. But I think there's a feeling today of the new baseline has been set. This is what we're all about. We're total challengers. If anybody's going to take the title off us, they're going to have to be really good. And it's just lovely to be back in this situation where everybody at Rangers totally believes in the team that we've got again.
No, definitely. I think the thing that pleased me most about today is that it was just so routine. I mean, McDermott Park, St Johnstone, it's one of the places where we've actually got a pretty decent record there, but nothing's ever straightforward. Normally, if you're going to win the game, it'll be by the odd goal. You might slip up there now and again, but you rarely win by as many goals. And to win by three goals now, as I say, routine win. But I'm not going to lie, for parts of that first half, I'm thinking, oh my God, this goal isn't going to come. Throwing all the toys at the pram, or these same players, these same serial losers, weak mentality, they're doing it to us again. And then the wonderful Mohamed Diamandi, who had a brilliant game. And do you know what? I actually thought he started off pretty slowly, but then again, so did the whole team. I think that's understandable given the conditions and stuff like that in the park and what we're coming up against. But as soon as he got that goal, he completely ran the show afterwards, and I felt great for him to get his first goal today, and it was an absolute belter.
He slotted in, absolutely. He slotted in as well as he slotted in that shot. He says, trying to be a bit Chick Young about it. It was absolutely fantastic. He's just come in there, Craig. What's that? That's his second start. He started the Scottish Cup game against Sheffield United.
Aye.
That's his first start in the league. He's coming as a sub, but he's just brand new. He's just in the door. And he looks brand new as well. He just fitted in instantly. He's taking the ball off Jack Butland. Said, I'll take that. Firing it up to Cantwell. Cantwell can't quite get a hold of it. He's right up there trying to shut the St Johnstone defenders down to get the ball back again. He's making it. He's built like an X-ray. And I think that the great thing about him, and I think maybe we're going to have a wee word about Scott Wright as well. And I think you see the difference is that the criticism I have of Scott Wright is that he can't really work in the tight spaces that Rangers come up against all the time. 9 out of 10 games we play. Diamande, I think being so slight is probably a part of it, but he's obviously able to work in the spaces. That goal he scored today, work in the tight spaces, I should say, when Rangers are getting shut down, particularly outside an opposition box, particularly against the likes of a St Johnstone. The goal he scores, Tav again, firing the ball in rapid style. He starts it. Lovely touch by Cantwell round the corner. And Silva's in there. He doesn't get on the ball, but he's in there. He's causing havoc. He's giving the St Johnstone defence something to think about to the point where they can't actually clear the ball properly. And Diamande, if you're watching the television, you say, I was the same as yourself, you're starting to think, is the team, are they just being patient here? Or are they falling asleep? Has it got too much for them? You know, are they failing with the task at hand? You know, it's just everything that we've been through is just playing havoc with what we're actually. It plays havoc with your emotions. It means you can't actually see properly, objectively, rationally what's going on in front of you. But the wee man it looks as if the park is absolutely mobbed with St Johnstone players. But he has just seen that spot, and it looks as if he's got no space at all. But he thinks he's got so much space that he's always going to control the ball. He's going to get it under the studs, the old roll forward with the studs, to tee himself up for his right foot with his left foot. Absolutely phenomenal. And the shot, that goalkeeper, all 3 goals we scored today, the goalkeeper got quite close to them, all of them. He's a good goalie. We've been up against the goalie in Wednesday night who had more saves in a single match than any other goalie since Opta Stats began. And the day we're up against a goalie who's had more saves in the league this season than anybody else, because St Johnstone are usually under so much pressure. But what a shot! An absolutely fantastic shot. Perfect way for the wee man Diamande to announce himself, and he was just he's looked impressive since he first arrived. As his CV is very impressive, and he properly arrived today, and really excited about what he can do for us.
Yeah, so and hopefully that can continue. I mean, in terms of the starting lineup, there was 4 or 5 changes. I can't remember off the top of my head. There was a few that I kind of expected. I expected Barisic to come in. I said it on Friday just because of the height and the way that St Johnstone are going to be physically. I felt he would have been a better option than Yilmaz. Fabio Silva came in today. It was a tough afternoon for Silva again, but it's like I was saying earlier about Diamande, you know, it's that pitch. You're not going to get a lot on that pitch, especially the way that St Johnstone play. Scott Wright came in as well, and we need to start being negative now after we've talked about being top of the league, because that's just what Rangers fans do. Look, I don't want to sound like a broken record and be all doom and gloom about it, but I think today's performance again, it kind of just encapsulated Scott Wright's Rangers career, where it's like he gets an opportunity and he just doesn't quite take it. And you made a good point earlier, Alec, when you're talking about like those tight spaces. Scott Wright doesn't seem to be able to get into them. He's really good at making the runs in behind and stuff like that, which you do need at times, but games against St Johnstone, probably not best suited, but at the same time it is a game that a guy like that should be able to come in and play his part, and it just didn't happen for him today.
I mean, maybe I'm just adding 2 and 2 together and getting 5, mate, when it comes to Scott Wright. And I take absolutely zero pleasure, especially in a day like today when we're mostly happy and we're being positive and calling the guy out. I think he definitely tries, and that's half the problem. He's trying, it's not enough. And it maybe because I just remember his greatest moments, maybe not his greatest games, but certainly his most memorable moments in the Rangers jersey come at Hampden against Hearts. You know, when it's a massive pitch, he's coming on as a sub in both these games, the Scottish Cup final and then in that League Cup semi-final earlier this season. It's a point where we've just taken the lead through a goal by somebody else, and it's a cup final or a cup semi-final as it was against Hearts the last time we played them at Hampden. They've then got to come at us, they're duty bound to come at us, and then Scott Wright, his pace can expose the big open spaces at Hampden, and just Rangers naturally being a lot better at Hampden than most of the opposition we play against there. So it feels to me, it might just be typical layman observing a game and getting it completely wrong. But what I've seen of Scott Wright, it's when it's what we need is players who can work in the tight spaces, who can work against these kind of defences, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. Now, I'm coming off at half time today. It's quite ironic when he comes on at half-time in that semi-final against Hearts for Todd Cantwell. It just shows you how players' fortunes can change. And I think particularly under Clement, we should never write anybody off. He's got us forgetting that we don't have Danilo and Sima. That's actually forgetting that these players who are absolutely massive have been lost to us. He can seem to change anybody's career around at Rangers, Clement. But I think... We can say, I thought Matondo went off, get subbed off the other night because the manager wasn't happy with him, but it turned out he'd been injured, so I don't really know the situation. But the pitch was bobbly. There was a lot of problems at first. The excuses were there for Rangers if we wanted. The players were of mind to find excuses not to perform today. But Scott Wright just seemed to be... There's a moment where he knocks the ball to... Cortez is actually coming over to the right-hand side a few times. I don't think it's to make up for Scott Wright. I think it's probably it's a tactic. It's something that's been discussed before the game. But he's coming over the right-hand side, and Scott Wright's trying to lay the ball off to him from about 6 yards away, and he's over hitting it, and it's going out for a shy and stuff like that. And that just seemed to kind of sum up his game. Scott Wright's part of the 55 team and all that, and I think he scored up here against St Johnstone once we won the league, and we'll just try to go through the season unbeaten. We
were robbed by a last-minute penalty.
I was raging that night. I was absolutely raging. You're talking about it's a game. It's a strange venue for us, and that was one of the nights. But I don't want to write the guy off completely. He's definitely got a lot to offer, and being surplus, felt as if he was surplus to requirements. The club are ready to sell him early in the season. That's got to affect your mentality going forward as well. So I don't want to write anybody off completely, but it was an unhappy day for him, and we definitely improved the second half when Sterling came on for him, mate.
No, I agree. I think with Scott Wright as well, Ross McCausland, who obviously came on later on, he's been getting a lot of criticism by fans. But I think when you look at the performances of somebody like a Scott Wright, that actually makes me thankful that we've got somebody like Ross McCausland coming in and performing.
That's the thing, Craig. I actually think in the time that Ross McCausland, who's only really got his chance in October, I know he's played for the first team before that and that, but he's come in there under Steve Davis. And that's Steve Davis 2 games in charge. He was in for that game against St Mirren after we lost Zach Lovelace. And in that short space of time, I feel as if Ross McCausland has done as much as Scott Wright in his whole time at Rangers. That's maybe being too cruel. That's maybe being... He's certainly, Scott Wright kind of gets like 1.5 goals a season on average, and a couple of them have been really, really crucial. And I think he made a good contribution in the League Cup semi-final last season against Aberdeen, extra time, But I just feel as if it's not really happening for him, and we need a kind of Ross McCausland level of performance from everybody, minimum, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. In terms of the rest of the game, the other goals, obviously Captain Tav steps up to take the 2 penalties. We'll talk about the penalty and both of them in the sort of decision-making process behind it, which was a wee bit weird, but that was his 119th and 120th Rangers goals today. Pretty incredible. There was a stat that came out the other day. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like, since he came at Ibrox, Rangers have scored 1,000 goals, and he's directly been involved in maybe 25% of them, or something like that, which is just nuts. I think next year it's coming up for his 10 years at Ibrox. The guy gets a lot of criticism. I've been critical of him. I know you're a big fanboy, so you will never accept any criticism of Captain Tav. But I think there was for me, there's kind of 2 Tavs. There's the one, I would say, the League Cup final, I think, against Celtic. I think in terms of his mentality, he's always had, for me, the ability, but I think his mentality was questioned at that League Cup final where he stepped back and allowed Morelos to take the penalty when he probably should have stepped up to take it. Nowadays, if that happens, he's taking the penalty. I think his mentality and his confidence has completely shifted from that point on. And let's be honest, since the season that we have won the league, his numbers have been frightening. He's getting between 15 and 20 goals a season. Absolutely remarkable numbers, to be quite honest. A hat-trick of assists on Wednesday against Ross County, a double today. Both penalties were brilliant. Opposite corners, keepers get no chance for either of them. The guy just keeps delivering, and I really, really hope that we can continue to form our own, to be quite honest, just so that he can lift us another league title, because he really does deserve another one.
Listen, Craig, I'm a massive Tav fanboy, but I would definitely, if he's not doing the business, if there's a problem there, I think, defensively, there's definitely been moments, particularly in his early part of his Rangers career, where he wasn't at it and it wasn't looking the business. But I think it's a lot of stuff with Tav. It's a misunderstanding of how not just Rangers play, but how modern football functions. I'm the same as everybody else. I'm not saying I wasn't doing. During the January transfer windows, a whole lot of people were suddenly like, we have to buy Majovski, we have to buy Shankland. And that was going up against people saying, it'd be stupid to buy Majovski, it'd be stupid to buy Shankland. It's a joke, you don't understand. I was just kind of in the middle going, it'd be nice to, if they're, I don't know how much it's going to cost us, maybe can't afford it, but we should maybe get these guys in. But I think Tav shows up how we don't really know what's going on. You can't judge football in those old terms. That's a top league goal scorer again. He was joint top. The worst he's been, I think, all season is joint top, and that's him 2 goals in front of, I think it's Sima and Dessers now or whatever. He's the heartbeat of the team in terms of getting the rhythm going. And that League Cup final you're talking about as well, that's where he added that extra bit of kind of discipline to his game, that kind of a bit more of a bastard after that. I'm just going to do what needs doing, and I am the boss kind of thing. But even in that game itself, that I think was the actual root of 55, that game, because no VAR that day when it came to the goal that Celtic scored from, and we had our chance to win that game from the penalty. But the reason we bossed that game up until that point, James Tavernier just said, I'm watching that. I remember being that main stand and just watching Tav surge, just tempo coming for the captain. I'll just say one thing. I just want to say one thing. We might not win the league this season, might not win the Scot, might not win anything else. It might just be the League Cup. But I've been really lucky in my life to be involved twice in projects about the Rangers 72 Cup Winners' Cup team. And they're both powered by a fella you might know, Ronnie Esplin, absolute legend of Scottish football journalism, and Ronnie knew us, big blue nose as well. And he was at all the games at Ibrox, or the games in that run to Barcelona in '72. And when he was talking about doing a book about it, he was the thing that Ronnie was saying to me that I recognised straight away was that our Cup Winners' Cup winning team didn't get the recognition they were due. They didn't get, there was for some reason, like Lisbon Lions, greatest Celtic team ever. All Celtic fans adore them, they're the ultimate. Aberdeen's Cup Winners' Cup winning team, greatest Aberdeen team ever. All their fans adore them, they are the ultimate in Aberdeen history. But with us, the Cup Winners' Cup winning team, this is like 20 years ago, Ron and I first did a book together about this. Wasn't it the same? And and we worked to it with pretty sure that the reason was, we won the Cup Winners' Cup 5 years after Celtic won the European Cup. So we're a bit embarrassed that we hadn't won the bigger trophy. That it was it looked inferior to what Celtic had won, so we didn't want to go on about it. B, there was the riot after the game, which wasn't our fault, it was the Spanish policy's fault, but Presbyterian stuff, we're taking the blame, we shouldn't have been misbehaving, blah, blah, blah. And C, that the domestic season Rangers had that season was horrendous. We get beat 3 times at home by Celtic for reasons I can explain when we get more time. We're miles off the league. We get beaten a Scottish Cup semi-final for the last time in like 40 odd years. Miles off it. It was terrible domestically. So I think it was a kind of thing of that wasn't the greatest Rangers team of all time winning that European trophy. But 20 years later, we're beating Leeds United at Ibrox in the first leg of the Battle of Britain as we are the most powerful football team in Europe with the best football stadium in Britain at the time. It's the Champions League. It's a top table. We're in there. We don't get to be part of that if we don't have a European trophy under our belt. And I think that's what's happened with James Tavernier. People don't want to, they keep calling him a loser. He's a loser. I was talking today about how he'd scored our last 3 goals at Parkhead. I bet we lost both games. We scored 3 of our last 4 goals at Hampden. A free kick, a penalty, and the winning goal for open play in a cup final. You know, the guy he scored like half 4 goals in the Champions League qualifying games we played this season, and a tank in Eindhoven, one in the draw in Servette that got us into the next round. He steps up all the time, you know. Rain or shine, win, lose or draw, Tav is just always there. And I think a lot of Rangers supporters are embarrassed by the fact that we're having to come back for 2012. It's taken a bit of time to get us back to what we were. And because James Tavernier has been the captain, it's like, he's the guy that should be lifting the trophies. He's not lifting the trophies, therefore he's a loser. Whereas he's the guy who is just waiting for the new manager. All the new managers that come in and start doing a job, Tav starts motoring. When we're pish under the same managers, he's still providing the last goal. The last goal for Gio's Rangers at St Mirren and whatever. He's just there all the time, and I think it will be 2032. He's like the Fergus McCann of Rangers. You know, McCann gets slagged rotten by Celtic fans at the time. But once we've went bust and what have you, suddenly they're all about financial, you know, being kind of like cautious with your money and what have you, and he's a hero. I think it'll be the same with us. I think James Tavernier, once we get the Walter Smith statue up there, maybe a Willie Waddle statue as well, James Tavernier is going to be up there. I think it will be, you know, again, about 20 years after he stopped playing before we realised just exactly how much a legend he is, and is the only captain in Scotland to come win a treble this season.
Well, exactly. And what a treble it would be if he managed to do it. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. But we're getting too excited. In terms of how the the penalties came about, Alec, I mean, the first one, I mean, Sterling, who was brilliant at a game, by the way. I seen a tweet earlier, it's like a picture of Jack Butland, and it's like, come on, saying, oh, sorry, boss. Butland saying to come on, oh, sorry, boss, I'm injured. And it's Sterling's face over Butland's face, and the goalie's talking. Sterling's like that, no worries, I'll step in and do it. The guy's played in every position this season, probably, apart from goals. The guy's an absolute tank. And see, the one thing that I loved the day, I don't know if you noticed, when Andy Considine went down injured. So, like, he went to have like a wee kick at Sterling, almost as if to say, like, oh, welcome to Scotland, welcome to anywhere north of Glasgow. And actually, the way that, because Sterling's that much of a tank in a unit, Considine actually injured himself by having a go at him, which I just thought was hilarious. That's what you get. You don't mess with Sterling, do you? But he makes a good run in the box. He's completely taken it by the St Johnstone player. And the referee, Matthew McDermott, who's relatively new to the top flight anyway, he stops, he looks down, and then he looks up a wee bit confused, and then he looks to the linesman as if to like say to the linesman, can you make this decision for me? Then says no penalty, and then obviously, you know, it goes to VAR because Christ, you really couldn't get away with no giving that one. I just found the whole decision-making process completely baffling. And me and John discussed VAR on Friday, wee bits of it. But I mean, how the referee's not given that in real time is beyond me. I think personally, it's a referee that's scared to make a decision, scared to give Rangers a penalty in real time, and you know, just hoping that if he makes a mistake, the guys, you know, and the mothership behind him will cover him. But that's not how VAR should work. If you're the referee, you need to referee it as you see it. I think it was pretty obvious that he thought it was a penalty because you see he hesitates, and it's almost if he goes, oh, it's all right, they'll bail me out anyway. So for me, the process behind it was completely baffling. I've not got a clue how he's not given that in the first viewing.
I think actually you're right what you're saying there, but you've not got a clue. I've not got a clue either. And I think there's too many fans just now pretending that I don't know all the rules to football. I don't know how all the protocols work. I'm not taking the time to learn. And I think a lot of us steam in there and just mouth off when we don't get something for our team. But our team doesn't get something, it doesn't get it the way we like it, then we've got a real problem with it. I think there's nothing more cowardly than slagging officials, slagging referees. And to the scale that, I don't mean, I slag referees all the time. I slag, in the heat of the moment, I'm convinced every single decision that we don't get, whether it's right or wrong, is a total conspiracy. Some of the stuff I've shouted at referees over the years, I am ashamed of, you know, and it's all conspiracy based. No, you're at it. The guy's never just made a mistake as far as we're concerned. He's always at it, you know, and it's the same for every other club sport in Scotland. I go to non-league football. I don't go as much as I used to, and a lot of the reason for that is because I physically can't stand how the referees are treated. Without referees, there's no football. When you're slagging a referee to the extent that your Suttons and a lot of people in the media are slagging referees just now, and Craig Levine's comments after the game today were absolutely disgusting. It's just you're slagging the game, you're slagging the very sport that you support. You should not then, if you actually believe. I loved Philip Clement for saying this a few weeks ago. The minute he suspects a referee is not neutral, he packs in football. Someone will resign for football. And we should do that as well. People should have the strength of their convictions. If we're going to think there's a refereeing conspiracy, we should just pack it in, because the game's no straight. It's a sport. It needs to be sport. We need to support our referees. There's 2 penalties today to Rangers, and we got both the penalties because of VAR, if you like. But we got them. So VAR should be there. It's doing its job. It made, was it 13 mistakes or something VAR had made?
Yeah.
785 or something VAR interventions. That's an amazing percentage. I think the anti-VAR kind of hysteria that's going just now is like anti-vax. It's just refereeing. It's just the rules. Craig Levine is saying today that VAR have scored day 2 goals. That doesn't make sense. That's like the R in VAR stands for refereeing. That's you would be. It's exactly the same as if he'd stood after that game and said the only reason Rangers scored those 2 goals is because the posts are so far apart. If they could move the posts in quicker, closer, they wouldn't go at the goals, and it's just no fair. It's a Deus Ex Machina. It's a non sequitur. The whole anti-VAR stuff has just got too out of hand, and something's going to happen to a referee. The way these guys are treated, I actually feel better seeing a referee getting slagged in a stadium full of 50,000 folk, because at least there's police there and there's stewards. You go to non-league games, these are the only people in the stadium ever that have got nobody supporting them. Everybody else is supporting one of the 2 teams and hates the referee. They actually perform like a social function to let folk, nutters come out and just get all the bile in their life out onto referees. Some of the abuse they take is absolutely unbelievable. It's like slagging the white lines, it's like slagging the posts, it's like slagging the corner flags. They are a part of the game. The game doesn't exist without rules, and the referees are there to enforce it, and the anti-VAR stuff is just get right out of hand. The only thing that's wrong with VAR is it's taken too long. And if we get the technology, the referees have only been doing it for a year and a half over here, so it's not going to be perfect straight away. And it's going to, this idea that it's supposed to be perfect. It's another check on the refereeing. You're re-refereeing games. Aye, that's the idea. So in a situation like today, where we don't get a Stonewall penalty, VAR can come in and do it for him. And that boy might have been scared. It's a referee I'd never seen before, mate. That's down to me. I'm not studying the game enough. I don't have the knowledge. But as a referee I've never seen before, so you might be right. He might actually have been scared, and we've got to ask questions about why and get that sorted. He might not understand the protocols. For me, I'm thinking if the ball had been kept in play, and when Sterling gets fouled, and maybe the ball had gone across the St Johnstone box and being still getting played, doesn't want to call it in case play should go ahead, could keep going, but it goes straight into the goalkeeper's hands. So for me, it was a stonewaller. Rangers, I think, have won the toss today and shot towards the end we wouldn't normally shoot towards in the first half at McDermott because of the sun, the low winter sun. And I've been watching the replays, and I think the referee is just getting into the shade as the tackle's made, and there is a Rangers player in front of him. And even as we're all thinking that looks like a stonewaller, who was it in co-coms? Kenny Miller on Sky is saying, has Considine got to that first? Oh no, and we see the angle from behind the goal. We can see, oh no, it's definitely is a stonewaller. It definitely is. It's Sterling has got there first. So maybe he's doing that because he knows that VAR is going to come in there and make the decision for him eventually. I'm a bit puzzled like yourself as to why the referee, why the assistant, the linesman, hasn't made the decision that's closer to him. But it was 2 Stonewall penalties, and we got the penalties and we scored the 2 of them. The only thing that's wrong for me is with VAR is the fact that it takes so long sometimes for the decision to be made. And we've seen like in the Super Cup final at the high end of the game with most money, they've actually got technology in there that's making these decisions really, really quick. So it will get quicker, it will get better. But we've got a whole raft of referees who haven't been trained in VAR, who've been raised in a non-VAR world. So the new referees coming through should be able to use it better and all that. And I thought when Craig Levine came out today and said what he said after the game, and he did it on BBC after in Sports Scene, and he's done it on Sky, just making it that VAR scored the goals today. That's what these guys are up against. And they're getting backed by the broadcasters who just like the easy copy of easy controversy. But no, mate, I've had enough with the anti-VAR stuff. For me, it was 2 penalties and we got them because of VAR or not. So the right thing happened in the end.
I mean, I think with Craig Levein, I genuinely don't think he's being serious with 90% of the stuff he comes out with.
He's looking at Luke Shanley. He's looking at Luke Shanley as if to say, are you going to let me say this? Because it's going to help me kind of hang on to my job or take the pressure off his players. He probably doesn't need the money, Levein. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to keep saying this. But Craig Levein was like that a decade ago before there was any VAR. It was refereeing conspiracies. And he was talking about, it was one night it was Dundee United manager at Rugby Park. We know what he did before the UEFA Cup final when Rangers beat Dundee United 3-1 in 2007, 2008. But I remember it was a game at Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, Dundee United. And I don't know what happened, but Dundee United didn't get the goal or something. There was a bad decision. And he was saying the referee and the linesman should give their wages to the supporters. They should refund our supporters for making the journey down here tonight because they made a mistake. And you're thinking, is that right, Craig? What about every single time you make an arse of things like by playing with no striker for Scotland and Prague? Are you going to refund the entire Tartan Army? There's a lot of hysterical, emotive garbage spoken by managers defending their job and by broadcasters trying to create controversy and by old men who are sick of the effort of going to watch their Fitbit team but want to find a reason not to go back. So VAR will do fine because that's modern Fitbit. Ruin it for us. It's got to stop. And I think these guys, I think we got what we're supposed to get today. It was the 2 penalties and I'm absolutely fine with it. Sorry, I've just been listening to. I've been listening to so much anti-VAR stuff. I didn't realise I was actually that angry.
I think no, I was going to say that would be a bit interesting if you're trying to show off your expenses about your credit card statements after a week in Prague with a Tartan Army. Aye, that would be funny if Craig Levein was out refunding that. But just before we move on to the next part of the pod, guys, need to give another sponsor message. That is from our sponsors, Football Prizes. They're a company who specialise in football competitions and match draws. As you can see, the latest prize is a signed shirt by various Rangers legends such as Haitley, Wood, Spikeman, Stephen and Walters, and it's also framed as well, so you don't need to worry about paying extra for that. Each ticket costs £3.95. There's a maximum of 149 entries. For details on how you can enter, you can visit our Twitter at Gersnet Online or go over to their website at footballprizes.co.uk. So, next part of the pod, Alec obviously spoke about the game there, but I just wanted to speak about the overall picture at the moment. You know, where we are, where this title race is, either is or isn't happening, depending on who you speak to. I've seen a few people speak about this a couple of weeks ago. This was before Celtic drew at Aberdeen, and people were saying that it looks as if we're probably overperforming at the moment and Celtic are maybe underperforming. But I came back and I've kind of said, well, are we overperforming? Maybe this is the levels that we're actually supposed to be performing at with our squad. And it begs another question about like Michael Beale's recruitment. And I'm just throwing this out as a question, right? I'm not saying it's yes or no before people go mental in the comments, right? But has Michael Beale's recruitment, and I'm not talking about his managerial skills, right? I'm talking about his recruitment. Has it actually been as bad as people are making it out to be? Because seeing it when you actually have a think about it, right? There's been two probably disaster signings, and I'm saying that because I can't think of anything else, right? And Lammers, Cifuentes probably as well. But at least we've managed to get them out. Do you know what I mean? And we're probably going to get some money back for them. But see, apart from that, every other signing that Beale's made, pretty much, and I mean, I can be corrected if I'm wrong, they have made an impact somewhat this season. Even Dessers, who people are slagging off. Butland's been the signing of the season. Balogun, you know, is probably the first choice centre back when he's fit. Danilo, apart from his injuries, been good. Sterling, who, you know, wasn't playing a lot, but when he's came in under the new manager's been absolutely fine. Even Kieran Dowell, yeah, he's had his injury problems, but, you know, he's still contributed when he's played. You go back to last season as well, he signed Raskin, who, all right, he's been a bit hot or cold, but still been a decent enough signing, and obviously Cantwell. So maybe Michael Beale's recruitment wasn't actually that bad, but it was just his actual managerial skills that was letting him down. I think with these group of players, people are writing this group of players off, but they seem to be a lot better than what people are giving them credit for. I mean, I seen a tweet earlier by a former Lowland League manager, and in fact, he might still be, but I'm not going to name names to give people airtime. basically saying that Rangers are an average side, but you don't finish top of your Europa League group and put in performances like that against Real Betis if you're an average side. I think this Rangers team's actually a wee bit underrated. I think there's players in there that, are actually pretty good players. I think this squad's getting a lot of slagging when I think it's a lot better than what people are making it, to be quite honest.
I think the question really is just how good is Philippe Clement if he can make the veritable silk purse, the pig's ear of Michael Beale's team, which, as you say, wasn't that bad. You're up spot on me. I've been thinking about this a lot this season. Jack Butland, nobody's going to argue him. Just to see a goalkeeper who can come out and command his area, that was a great thing with Jack Butland at first. We didn't realise, God forgive me for saying anything against Alan McGregor, who is officially the best Rangers goalkeeper of my life. Absolutely phenomenal. I find it hard to see anybody other than Gorham as being the best I've ever seen, but Alan McGregor beat Gorham for me. That took a lot of beating as far as I was concerned. But when Jack Butland, he just got to the point where he was too old, Alan McGregor. It was that's not his fault that we let him stay on. He was still capable of making the point blank saves, but he wasn't doing the simple stuff of coming out and commanding his box. And the fact that we're conceding so few goals, only 4 goals on the road, they were saying today in the league, the best defensive record by far in the league. It's down to, I think, a lot of the confidence spread through an ever-changing central defence and the left-back area is because we have a goalkeeper who just comes out and takes the ball out of the air. When there's a cross coming in, it just commands his box. That's something we haven't actually had, just the basic stuff, for about a season and a half, I would say, up until the start of this season. And that spread confidence through. And then it got to the game, I think it's the game in Prague, really, under the time Clement comes in and he starts making the double saves. He starts making, we're under real pressure, and he starts making the spectacular saves. I think Butland just showed that he's absolutely class. He's up there with Kloss, Woods, McGregor, Gorham, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely phenomenal. But Sima as well, I think Sima, another signing by Michael Beale. He got him in, and he's... I think this goes straight into praising Clement for making us almost forget about him. One of the reasons I was like, I take Shanklin, take Majowski, just get somebody in that makes me believe in goals for Rangers, is because when we lost Sima, and again, that's goals coming to the left-hand side of the park, his goal scoring rate was absolutely phenomenal, just crept up on as a guy who just got better and better in a kind of slow, under-the-radar way, and just became... it was absolutely vital to what Clement was doing with Rangers, never mind Beale, and, it's testament to Clement that we haven't missed him so far. That might not be the case as the season goes on. But you're absolutely right, mate. Raskin, it's just injuries. Cantwell epitomises what Philippe Clement has done at the club. I think he's kind of tamed Cantwell like a wild horse kind of thing, just had taken a break him, perhaps, and he's got him doing what he wants him to do. You see, even when he took him off the park the day, he's given him the big long conversation, the big hugs, the sincerity, and just saying to him, I don't know what he was saying to him, but it looked like something along the lines of, don't you think for a second I'm taking you off because I think you're crap. It's, I want to save you for the next game, or I'm just going to try something a bit different, blah, blah, blah. He's coaching all these players, but I think it's that thing, mate. You know what it's like at Rangers, it's sugar or shite. If it's not happening, Beale just, everything Beale did, everything Beale touched, it was complete crap, and that's why there's still a wee bit of caution when it comes to Clement, because Michael Beale's record when he came in at the start at Rangers, it was absolutely sensational. He got to the point, he drew his first game against Celtic. I know it was at Ibrox, but Clement's lost his first game against Celtic. Beale's record, it very rarely dropped points to anybody other than Celtic. It was the fact that it was only Celtic he couldn't beat that became a real problem for him then towards the end, and in the beginning of the season it didn't work. And I think his pre-season seemed to be horrendous. It was notable even in the pre-season friendlies this season that we just weren't at it at all. Even in a pre-season state, we just didn't look at it in any way, shape or form. But I think he's able to... That's maybe what Michael Beale is. A great coach, a technical coach. He'll be able to draw you all the kind of heat maps and what have you that are required. And a great scout as well. Somebody's able to spot talent. But he's just not able to do transfer it to the dressing room and get it back onto the pitch again. But I think you're absolutely right what you're saying, mate. The signings weren't as bad as we thought. Even Cifuentes come on in. Remember we come on for Lawrence. Lawrence got that injury early on at Tynecastle. When we first started to try Lawrence's position that he's now going to be, sitting beside Lundstrom, the sitting two in midfield. He got injured straight away. We brought on Cifuentes, who wasn't even ready to come on the park. but he was great that night. He was great that night against Hearts. Kind of made a difference, and what a job he did. And Seville as well. When he come on in Seville, he was playing in Seville. I think Cifuentes. He was like a holding midfielder. And we brought in Sterling in the second half. I think Seafield got injured earlier or something. I can't remember what happened exactly, but he definitely done a job. Definitely done a few good jobs. So it wasn't all terrible with Cifuentes. But I don't think it's really terrible with any player. Even Lamar scored an absolute belter up at Dundee, didn't he? And I remember the whole stadium going nuts when it was Cantwell that get taken off against Aris Limassol after 37 minutes, and no Lammers because he had become the boo boy, become the target. And a part of me is still a bit convinced that we just broke that boy. He just became the scapegoat, and he was never going to get the chance to be, to prove so many Rangers supporters wrong. So many fans had too much invested in him being honking. Some of the treatment of Lammers was terrible, but I don't think it's. I don't think Beale's signing policy was half as bad as it's been made out, mate. I think you make a really good point there.
That's interesting. It's something that I've thought about since the new manager, came in. How much it is down to, managerial skills and how much it is down to recruitment. People were slagging the board off for giving Michael Beales the keys to the castle, but if we go on and continue to form it well, maybe it was a good thing to do, and then just. But
the thing is, we forget during the summer, here's a wee announcement about what's happening at New Edmiston House, and all the replies are announced Lammers, announced Dessers. What we're wanting these, and let Michael Beale have the keys to the castle, because that's what Celtic have done with Postecoglou, and it's worked for them. So we were encouraging all this stuff, and then suddenly when it goes wrong, don't want anything to do with it. It was nothing to do with us. Beale's a joke, and everything he's done was a joke, and it's just not that straightforward. But I will be, apart from it, I must admit though, I am really, really excited already to see what Clement is going to do once he's got a full pre-season and making a few more of his own signings. But again, getting ahead of ourselves.
Aye. Well, hopefully he doesn't do a Paul Glennon starter in the Sahara Desert, because that'll just look a disaster, wouldn't it?
He's a bit of an old ginger like myself. He's too baldy. The sun would get to him.
Aye. Another thing that I've thought about lately as well is kind of the narrative that's been set by, let's face it, Celtic fans, that they're throwing away everything. You know what it's like over there right now. Everything's, they're wanting to set fire to things. I mean, they quite literally did set fire to things no that long ago. But this whole, we're throwing the title away, we're doing this, we're doing that. Can you really throw a title away? I mean, is it something that fans just say because they're angry at how bad their team's doing? Are their team even doing bad? I tweeted earlier that Brendan Rodgers averaged 92 points during his first spell at Celtic. If you tally up all 2.5 of his seasons on a points per game ratio, right now he's on hand to get 91 points. So Brendan Rodgers is performing pretty much the same rate as Brendan Rodgers always has at Celtic.
Yeah.
What's the difference? The difference is Rangers aren't managed by Graham Murphy or Pedro Caixinha. Rangers don't have a budget half the size of Celtic anymore. That is the difference. And for me, Celtic fans are, they were lapping up Brendan Rodgers a few years ago. Now they're attacking Brendan Rodgers, the board, just for doing what they've done the last few years. Anyway, they're doing the exact same thing as they've always done, but it's terrible now all of a sudden, just because they can't stand us being half decent. And I said earlier, I don't think their supporters have the stomach for a title fight. Whether the players or the manager do is another question. I don't know about that. We'll find out in due course. But the fans, some of them are just absolutely mental. And I think I've said it a few times. For me, it's about togetherness and unity. I think unity within a club as a whole, 95 to 100% of the time, will normally result in you winning a league title. In my life anyway, I can't think of many times where a club that's been divided properly ripped apart from seam to toe, goes on to win leagues. Every time that Rangers have won a league, okay, we might have had the stuff going off the park with, David Murray and stuff like that, and Lloyd's taking over the club, but everybody was right behind Walter. Everybody was right behind that group of players for those 3 years. Even before, Alec McLeish still had the backing of a lot of the fans when he had his last day couple of wins as well. But I think it's about unity. I think if we can keep our fan base together for the rest of the season, just let them fall apart. It's what they love to do. it's what they were born to do. That's what they love to do. What you're seeing, the reaction of Celtic fans in the last few days, this is what they love to do. They've done it their whole of their existence. They will continue to do it. And for us, it's just a case of setting up these wee traps and allowing them to fall through it, I think, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know. I just think once you get a big support of a football team, there's always going to be a nutter element. And if you just have to read my tweets on Twitter just to see the amount of crap that gets talked on Twitter, on social media, or X, whatever you want to call it. And it's always the nut bars come to the fore a lot of the time, and maybe skewer in a dangerous way what the kind of body politic, what most supporters are actually thinking. I think there's a silent majority at most clubs. Not everybody goes on and pours it all out onto Twitter, but I think there's a stereotype. We are very, very hard on our own club all the time. I think we're very kind of, if something goes wrong, it's our fault. And I think that's why the VAR thing as well, Celtic are so against VAR. I think that's the number one clue for Rangers supporters. My enemy's enemy is my friend.
It's weird, but with VAR, Alec, because Celtic were in favour of VAR before it came out, but now all of a sudden it's introduced. They're not in favour of it. Well, because they've realised
that it stops them being able to win things by shouting. By shouting the loudest, because they will always, because that is one part of the Celtic support, and it's not Celtic supporters are like this. I know plenty of Celtic supporters are sensible folk and what have you, and we've certainly got our own nut bar element who like to shout things down and that. I'm kind of against the broad brush strokes thing, but I think the stereotypes of supports, Celtic has always been about their pain has to mean more than your victory. It gets to the point that they're like, I think if there's a kind of collective shorthand for the nut bar wing of the Celtic support, it will be we're going to shout loudest about how much when they lost to Ross County in the League Cup during the COVID season, but during 55. That was, I know they hadn't played the Scottish Cup final yet at that point in time, but Celtic were on their way to 4 successive trebles. And the very first time they weren't able to win a domestic trophy for the first time in 5 seasons, they rioted outside the stadium, like attacked their own team bus and what have you. Now, it's a bit of a misnomer because there is like 60,000 season or 50,000 season ticket holders in a 60,000 capacity stadium at Parkhead. There's, 200,000 Celtic fans in the Glasgow area, maybe 1 million. So it was just a few hundred folk that attacked it, but it's that kind of, you have a wee moment, you just go, take it in the chin, let's just praise what we've done there. That's like come to an end, well done for what you've done. But it went straight to, oh my God, we're getting beat, we can't take it. And you'll get that whole thing about, show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser, which I think is always a lot of crap. That's all about, that's a justification for unsporting behaviour and what is a sport. There's a very much that thing with Celtic where it's like, if we can't win it, let's burn the whole thing down to the ground. And I never want Rangers to become like that. But at the same time, I think that led to us burning ourselves down to the ground almost because we're so set upon blaming ourselves for everything. You see, not everybody was behind Walter Smith. There was always an arsehole who thought he'd been a smart arse by slagging Walter Smith's tactics at the time I was supporting Rangers, and Walter Smith was behind David Murray, and a lot of folk didn't like that either, because David Murray only won us the 14 titles, got us to a European final, got us a goal away for a Champions League final and rebuilt the stadium, half the stadium, finished it off to make it one of the best in Europe. But apart from that, he hated us and he was a con man and he was just there to, to shut Rangers down. There's always got to be a black and white thing with supporters. We were talking earlier on about Michael Beale's signings. You're absolutely spot on. Not as bad as we thought it was, but it just wasn't good enough. And I think the same thing's happened with Rangers down the years, but it's no letting your nutter element take over. But we hope that does happen with Celtic. We hope that the kind of flailing and I hate Brendan Rodgers, despite, back in September, I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. To be fair, a lot of Celtic fans were very, very upfront about the fact they didn't want Rodgers back. They didn't think he was the man. They hated him for betraying them, for leaving in the first place and all this kind of thing. So a lot of them are just kind of sticking by their guns if they're now slagging Rodgers. A lot of them see it as chickens coming home to roost. But I think we've got to follow the Philippe Clement example, and it's look after ourselves. That man refuses. I think I've heard him say the word Celtic twice and one of them was when we're just about to kick off against them at Parkhead. And it's not in a bitter, we don't want to be half of anything type of way. It's just, it's pro Rangers. It is totally respectful to everybody else. And in the sense that he doesn't want to be counting any chickens. He is just focusing on the task at hand all the time. You got to look after the pennies to look after the pounds kind of thing. So we're enjoying feeling strong again. We're enjoying feeling like we're on top again. That obviously comes hand in hand with enjoying the pain of our oldest and dearest rivals. But we really do want to be waiting until we've actually won. But and that's a big thing that's changed today, and maybe perhaps in almost a negative sense, but it's a negativity you want to embrace, is that we can only win the league now. We can only fail now. If we don't win the league, it's not going to be like, well, Clement did well to get them within a few points of the league. Definitely improved them from when Michael Beale was in. He's gone top of the league with all the games in hand played. It'll now be a disaster for the noisier element, our nut bar wing of our support, in which I'm a kind of associate member. If we don't win the title now, so we better not be counting. I'm kind of obsessed with chickens. I think I'm just getting a bit hungry. Counting chickens is a big thing for me tonight, but we better just make sure we get to the end of the season and we get this League One before we start getting too joyous about the pain of our rivals across the city.
No, I agree, and I said it yesterday on Twitter. I mean, like, we're football fans, and obviously when things happen, you're going to have a laugh at your rival's expense, which is fair enough. And
we've been getting excitement.
I love it, but I did see a few tweets like yesterday, and I've seen a few today where it's like, is that one of Brendan Rodgers outside Celtic Park, and he's saying to the Celtic fans like, oh, if you don't believe me or something like that, then I'll see you in May. And Rangers fans are retweeting like that. Can you see us now? And it's like, right, you said see you in May, no see you in February. Like, come on.
It's keep powder dry time. It's time to keep the powder dry, because we really are going to unleash. We really are going to, and we deserve to as well. We really have earned it. We've been getting it tight for Celtic. It's like they've won, was it 5 trebles in 7 seasons, and yet it's still a conspiracy because we got a couple of stonewall penalties a day. No, this is, and to be fair, I'm looking at these comments more through me getting dragged into it, but I'm seeing Celtic fans underneath such comments saying, no, mate, we need to start looking at ourselves. Rodgers is at fault here, the signing policy, blah, blah, blah. So they're not the same, but there's been some real horrible stuff getting thrown at us over the years, and they really enjoyed our pain, and that's absolutely fine. But we keep our powder dry and wait until we get that league title won, be it this season or be it next season, and we can then properly unload. But everybody should really enjoy this moment tonight. For Rangers are definitely looking the business again.
I agree. Last year then, before we finish up, I mean, it's about the consistency, because I think that's 9 games in a row we've won now. Fantastic. Christ, we've just jinxed it. We're not going to beat Hearts next Saturday now, because that's 9. That's 9. We're not going to get to 10 now. Although then again,
Shankland hat-trick. Yep.
Oh Christ! That would be very, very interesting if that happened. Let's hope it doesn't, but I'm sure it won't. But how do we keep being consistent? And I think mostly, how do we keep being consistent? That's something the manager will say. Just keep doing your jobs, game by game, training session by training session, as he said. But for me, it's more so as a fan base. It's like, we will slip up, right? We've got 12 league games left, right? There is no way that we are winning our next 12 league games, right? It's not going to happen. But for me, I think that when we do slip up, right, and hopefully when we do slip up, we'll be a couple of, maybe we'll be 4 points ahead or whatever, and maybe only brings it back to what we are now, right? But even if it doesn't, like, even for example, if Celtic won yesterday and we drew today, could this have been a 180? Would our fans have been going mental? At the same time, you're still only 2 points behind with 2 Old Firm games to go. So for me, it's just about keeping the heat for the next 12 games. We will slip up. Don't get on the team's back that much, unless they're being really, 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 really bad, in which case, by all means, do what you want, but stick with it. I mean, I've seen Walter Smith, Rangers side, struggle to get over the line. Was it 2009 where we went to Easter Road, or was that the one we get to the UEFA Cup final, and basically we just had to win and we would have pretty much won the league, and then we drew 0-0, and then it's like, would you even want to win the league, Walter? And then Celtic slipped up like the next day, and then that gave us the chance to go and win it at Paradise. It's like, so we've seen the best of the best struggle to get over the line at times. So if they struggle to do it, this squad could also struggle to do it as well. But for me, it's just about, calming down. Don't get too ahead of ourselves. Don't get too far back as well. Try and stay calm. Try and stay in that sort of neutral frame of mind until it's all said and done. I think, Alec, that's the way to go forward as fans when we do inevitably slip up this season.
I think if there's any one benefit to the bad start we had to the season, it's made people appreciate Clermont more. We definitely see the improvement, and the fans are right behind it. There was a lot of nerves the other night. I think it was, there was a bit of kind of growling and all that. Oh, we need to get this other goal and whatever. And it was like 43 shots on target, or 33 on target or whatever, but 43 shots on goal. It was like, I think there's a general acceptance that we're being a bit greedy the other night, but it's just a fear that, are we going to miss? Are we going to, no pick up on this chance? But they'll have done it. That's basically the third league game on the trot today, where we have technically, and it's become less and less technical and more probable that we will go top of the table. It might have been temporary against Aberdeen. We're just happy to beat Aberdeen. Just happy to beat them when they end up. Even though if we'd won by 3 clear goals that night, we would have gone top of the league that night. That'll be back on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, if we beat Ross County by 3 clear goals, we go top of the table. But it was kind of more expected because Ross County had been, had a bad season. They'd lost 5-0 to Motherwell the same night we beat Aberdeen, blah, blah, blah. But we didn't quite get there, but we got the 3 points secured, and there was a kind of comment. Whereas today, I feel as if, and you're saying it, mate, I'm glad we've got the guts to admit this. We're loving the fact we won 3-0 today, but up until the 37th minute of that game today, I didn't know what was happening with the Rangers mentality. Because if we hadn't won the game today, I think if we hadn't gone top of the league today, particularly we've got a whole week now for it to fester. There's no midweek game, which should be a good thing. But I think mentality-wise, it wouldn't have been if we'd slipped up today. It'd been like, they just can't do it. It would start getting fashioned. It would start getting regarded as this team doesn't want to go top of the league. They're bottlers, even though as ridiculous as that is. So I think they had to do it today, and they did. And the way they've done it, as I say, the manager, he doesn't see. Well, we've got a minimum, I think, of 15 games we're going to play. If we go straight out to the Scottish Cup to Hibs and we go straight out to the Europa League to whoever we play in the last 16, that's 3 games, and we've got 12 remaining league games. So a minimum 15 games, but we're hoping for 22 or 24 more games, whatever, if we go all the way in Europe and we go to Dublin and, we go all the way in the Scottish Cup as well. But the manager will just focus on one game. It's almost like in The Wire, the guys that go to jail in The Wire, they'll say you only do 2 days in the joint, the day you go in and the day you leave. I think Clermont is just like, there's only one game to go this season, and it's the next one. It's the next one we're playing, which is, and that, I think that's the greatest thing he's done in terms of mentality, is he's basically just espousing the one game at a time mantra in a different way. I think that's what most great managers have to do, is just keep the players believing and focused on a game-to-game basis, as well as knowing your tactics and everything else. But he keeps that focus. And even I'll just say one more thing, press conference, not before this game, but it's before the Ross County game. So it'd be Tuesday, the pre-match presser, Auchenhowie for the game against Ross County. I was, as usual, making something in the kitchen. I was cooking my dinner or whatever when I was listening to that on my phone, the YouTube, Rangers YouTube channel. So I'm not watching it. I'm just listening to Clermont. And he gets asked about Balogun, and he talks about Balogun with the face mask. We're going to get him tested out, see if he's going to come back. And I know about that, says Clermont, because I was a player. He's a centre-half as well, a defensive midfielder, Clermont, in his playing career. I know what it's like with the mask thing. You've got to get it, you've got to try and work out what's the best fit for you, blah, blah, blah. So you believe him. This isn't Michael Beale telling you a story about a player. This is believable. So he's a player who's played at that level. You believe him about that. Later on, what did they ask him later on? Don Cowie, Ross County, they've got a temporary manager. They've got a caretaker manager. So is that going to be easier for you? Because the press are all trying to make him say, the Rangers, the mainstream press are all trying to make him say something that can go up in the Celtic notice board or the opposition team notice board. Do you think that's going to be easier for you? No, because I was caretaker manager at Bruges. That was my first time at management. I stepped in to be caretaker manager at Bruges, and I was psyched to my nut. I was really, really up for it. So this guy's going to be really up for it, and it's going to be difficult for us to beat him. Coming with his experience straight away. See, in the middle of the interview, say, I'm not looking at him, I'm not watching Clermont. somebody said, I can't remember what it was. Again, it was something like, if you win by 3 goals tonight, you're going to go top of the league. That must be quite exciting for you. And he made a noise. He just kind of went, ugh, because he's so phobic about giving anybody anything, about thinking Rangers are going to go top of the league, about thinking about cups, about thinking about trophies. No. And it was almost like he thought, Alec, you're cooking your dinner now, mate. You can't see me. So I'll make a noise just to let you know how much I am against the idea of talking about Rangers going top of the league. The guy's absolutely sensational when it comes to the man management and the support management. You're talking about managing the expectations of the support and about keeping us focused in one game at a time. And the way he's bringing in players, we've got problems. We're questioning Scott Wright, what have you, but we've questioned Todd Cantwell this season as well, and he's now coming back into being a fixture, a starting fixture. Who would have thought Tom Lawrence could come in there and be in the sitting two? The sitting two has changed. It's not a Jack or a Cifuentes or a Raskin sitting beside John Lundstram. It's now a Diamante or a Lawrence when we're up against kind of lesser opposition. They can get forward. He's constantly evolving while he's doing that, and he's constantly improving the players that he's got, but he's keeping us focused on the next game. The way you project into the future is by doing it now, doing as much as you can in the moment. And I think that's the great thing with Clermont, and that's what you're right, as a support, have got to do. Just keep focusing on that next game, mate.
Yeah, one game at a time. Slow and steady wins the race, as they say.
Correct.
And that's the way to go forward. But no, that's absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much for joining me tonight, Alec. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure, mate. Top Forreston.
It's been brilliant. Thanks very much. At least somebody thinks so. I'll take any compliment tonight. Thanks very much to the guests at home. As we say, one game at a time, guys. We're playing Hearts next Saturday. I think Alec will be back with his post-match reaction, as will me and Scott. We'll be doing a press conference reaction to see what the manager's got to say about it, and hopefully it'll be another win for Rangers. But thanks very much for joining us tonight, guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.